it's been about a month since I've shown you my knitting, but it's been such a super busy month that I haven't done a lot of knitting that I can actually show you. I'm working on a couple of designs for magazines and releases in the future, so I will be able to show you those at some point, and I'm excited about those. One thing I did do is I finished putting the heels on a lot of these socks I was telling you about last time. It's the sock tubes. I had them knit into tubes, and then I just put in heels, toes, and cuffs. So I ended up doing the heels on all of these. These two are for Kaya, and then I've got two pairs for Leaf, a shorty and a long one. Since his feet are shorter, I was able to get two pairs out of a single blank or tube. So there's that. I think they came out great. I'm going to put them aside and hide them until the holidays so I have some little gifts for them, because nobody's wearing socks right now anyway since it's warming up. Everybody's just wearing sandals. I have another pair that I'm almost finished for Toby that just needs one more heel, and then I'll block those and put those aside. And I'll probably do a few others for holiday gifts too, because they're super simple to do and helps use up some of the stash of beautiful yarns I've had sitting around that I just haven't put into a pattern yet. The other thing that I've been working on is a new design. I think I showed you the basic design last time that I got inspired from a sweater that a friend of mine was wearing at a holiday party last year, and it was very 70s looking. But there was this one pattern across the chest that I just thought was really beautiful, so I took it and tweaked it and made it to fit a hat, and here it is. I don't know the name of it yet, but this is the finished pattern. This is done in Moel yarn. This is her Bliss base, which is silk and merino, and then I also did it in her Welsh mule base, which is a more fluffier yarn, a more grippy yarn. So it's two very different. This one's a fingering, this one's a light fingering. So there can be two different sizes and using two different types of yarns. But I really like it, and I love how the crown came out. Isn't that cool? So it's at the tech editor right now, and I'll be asking for testers soon. Oh yeah, and take a look at the ribbing. Isn't that neat? I think it's a really pretty design, so I'm excited to share that one with you. Those are the only two things that I can share that I've been working on. My seer cloak is coming out next week, May 1st, along with the mittens and the seer hat. The whole collection's coming out. I'm super excited. Please watch the Instagram feed because I have a really neat release video for you guys that I've put together. The cloak and the mittens and the hat were knit out of 3 different types of yarn. 2 of those yarns are available through the Woolly Thistle in the States. So if you're looking to get Let Lopi, she carries that. That yarn is from overseas. If you're living in the States, you can get it through her. She's also going to have kits and discounts on the Harrisville yarn, the watershed that I used. So I'll have that information in the release also, so you're able to take advantage of those discounts. And thank you so much to Corinne for offering that through the Woolly Thistle. Let's see, a couple other things I wanted to talk to you about that I have received in the past month are some really beautiful yarns. I'm going to start first with these 3. These are naturally dyed yarns from my friend Sophia, who lives out in Transylvania. She really wants to help farmers in the area get a product out there that they can sell instead of throwing away the fleeces or not having a good income from these fleeces that they grow. So she's been in touch with some of the farmers. She has this spun up at a local mill. It's a single ply. So here's what she said. It's minimally processed, single ply, 100% organic wool from Transylvania, and she's named it Berke, B-E-R-K-E, for the name of the sheep breed in that area. So she has some of these. She's just started doing them, and she has some of them in her Etsy store that I will link for you so you can see them. They're really beautiful. They remind me a lot of the Moel yarn, which is also from that area, in the feel and the spin, and also somewhat the yarn that I've gotten from Wild in the Wood. And I actually have some of that to show you. It's really beautiful, and I'm excited to do something with it. I don't know what yet. I just have these 2 skeins and little mini skeins, so I want to put it into something where I can use a lot of it and really show it off. But it's super beautiful. I love what she's doing. I love it when people get into this because of that desire to, you know, bring it all the way back to the farmers. I mean, dyeing yarn is a lot of fun, especially naturally dyeing yarn, but when it starts at the farm and trying to help them, and you can help yourself with it, I don't know, I just really like that these farmers are maybe getting something that they didn't otherwise have, because she's willing to reach out and say, hey, let's do something more with that fleece. So there's those. I'll show you the yarns from Wild in the Wood next. I had signed up, so I've talked about Serena before. She's out in British Columbia and also does some naturally dyed yarns that are just stunning. So she announced that she was going to have a surprise mystery box, 3 of them, for based on the movie Practical Magic. It's the movie with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. I'd never actually seen the movie before, though. I think it came out in the 90s. So I was just curious. I went and watched it. It was a super cute movie, but knowing Serena and how she does things, the touches she puts on things, and I was just excited to see what she would put together in this kit. So I ordered one. I ordered the first one, and it came with these. I don't know if you'll be able to see. This one is kind of a greenish brown, and this is a beautiful purple. And this one says, rosemary by your garden gate, and lavender for luck. And that was one of the things that they said in the movie, one of the magical phrases that they had. So I don't know that these are dyed with rosemary and lavender, but they're beautiful colors. And this is her Seafolk yarn, which is 100% rustic Canadian wool, which really feels very similar. Maybe just a little bit less lanolin. This one feels like it might have a little bit more lanolin to it. I'd be curious if they were similar breeds or descended from similar breeds. But along with that, I also got seeds for rosemary and lavender, so I've already planted those, and we'll see how they grow. I've never grown those from seed. Some tea, a little lavender sachet, and this says local Pacific sea salt, rosemary, lavender, and essential oils. It's a little bottle. I mean, I'm sure you could use it for your bath, but I kind of just want to sit it up on my shelves because it feels like this little magical bottle. And then the other thing I've already started using, it says, but there's one thing I know for certain. Always throw spilled salt over your left shoulder. Keep rosemary by your garden gate. Plant lavender for luck and fall in love whenever you can. And it is a delicious candle with lavender and rosemary in it. So such a sweet gift, a really fun little box to open up and have all the goodies that I would like to play with. I don't usually do stuff like that, partly because I have so much yarn already. I don't want to, I like to try to buy stuff only for what I'm going to be using at this point, because I'm trying not to add so much to my stash of things that I will just have sitting. But I know I love Serena's yarn, so I thought it would be a fun way to maybe inspire myself to knit something or create something based on the yarn as opposed to starting with the pattern first. One of the things I've done over the past month is that last week Leaf was on spring break, and so I took him out gem mine, and he's super into rocks and geology, and I thought it would be fun to go through and just explore some of the rocks in this area. The mountains of North Carolina have a crazy amount of variations in the rocks and gems and the things that are available. I know that at some point there was a small gold rush in this area, and you can still find really small amounts of gold in the right areas. But there's a lot of gems available too, and minerals. So we went to a place called the Bon Ami Feldspar Mine, and they would mine feldspar to use in mostly cleaning products, and I think it was also added to certain types of ceramics for pottery. And when they'd gone through the rocks, through the feldspar, they would put the tailings or the stuff that they didn't want anymore in what they called the mine dump. So you can bring in your pickaxe and your hammer and big bucket, and you can go through their dumpings and find stuff. And so that was a lot of fun. I knew that it wouldn't be as, whoa, look at this, as gem sluicing would, because all the stuff's already mostly been picked out. But the kids still had, Leaf brought one of his friends, the kids still had a lot of fun just hammering on the rocks and finding little pieces of this, that, or the other. You know, anything with color was not the feldspar. And so they found little bits of garnets, and they found little bits of opal, and they found a few other things. And I'll show you some of the stuff we came away with. After we went to that mine, we also went to another one in the area where we got a big bucket of rocks, and we, you know, put them in the water and sluiced through, and basically anything that was white was the feldspar, and anything with color was another gem or mineral. And so it was really easy to pick out all fun stuff. And we found stuff from this area as well as stuff that they brought in just to enhance the bucket and make it feel, I don't know, even more exciting for the kids. So we had a lot of fun doing that. I'll show you what we got. So I want to show you some of the things that we found when we were on our mining trip. These right here just look like really big rocks, but we got them from what was called the mine dump, the feldspar mine dump. So all of these big pieces had come out of the mine. They've kind of been gone through to pick out the stuff that the miners wanted, and then they were dumped in this one area, and we were able to go through and pickaxe through some of it and see what we could find. So let's see if I bring it in the shade, if you're able to see it a little better. A lot of the sparkle that you see in there is mica. And let's see, I have a nice sheet of that. This stuff right here is mica. It's very, very thin sheets. And it's been used, it used to be used to make mirrors. I know that it's still used some in giving a sparkle to makeup. And we find it all over the place around here, but this area had some specifically large pieces. Let's see, in this one right here, you can actually see little bits of garnet. All these little bitty spots are just tiny little pieces of garnet. And this one is a nice big smoky quartz. So a lot of this stuff had every, you know, the things that they wanted taken out of it. So we found pieces that weren't as, not as valuable, but still very pretty. You can kind of see a pink shine to that one. It has, I don't remember what it is in it. But the cool thing about most of these rocks is that when you put them under a black light, some of them glow. Some of them have what's called Hyalite Opal in it, or Hyalite Opal? Hyline, I think. And some other stones that react to black light. After we went to the dump, we went to a mine where we went sluicing. So you get a bucket full of rocks, and then you go through them and pick out the ones that are worth something. Some mines you just get things that actually have only buckets of sand or rocks from their specific mine. This had a bunch of local stuff, but it also had stuff that was added from elsewhere, which just makes it kind of fun when you're with two 10-year-olds and you want them to enjoy what they find. This is a really cool rock called Dalmatian. This one was a nice piece of turquoise. There's a lot of amethyst, light colored amethyst. There's some jasper, some red jasper. He actually separated out some of the stuff that the man that was there going through and telling us what they all were. He separated out some of the things that he thought could actually be cut into really nice stones. All of these can be cut. into what's called a cabochon, which is a rounded stone, but the ones that could be cut into faceted stones need a different structure. This one right here is a very dark amethyst. So dark that you can almost not see the purple. But amethyst is my birthstone, so I was really excited to find this one. And then this one was a super light amethyst, a very light purple. I have some citrine and some garnet, big garnets, and a few sapphires. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know what we'll do with these big buckets of rocks, but it's just a fun adventure. I did leave one rock with them that was called a bright citrine. That's a very, very bright light yellow, but when it's facet cut, when it has, you know, like a diamond shape to it, or it's cut at angles, it really, really shines in the light. So I'm excited to see how that one looks. This one, you might be able to see, get it away from the stripes. There we go. This one is tiger's eye, and you can kind of see that shine of tiger's eye. So yeah, we had a blast. I definitely want to go back again. I'd like to take Kaya back there. I was thinking for her 16th birthday we would take her and then see if she wanted to get one of the stones cut as a little birthday gift. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about before we head on to some of the things I'm going to be doing today is that if you're in the North Carolina area, I'm going to be teaching at the Big Leaf Magnolia Art and Garden Festival on May 18th. It's going to be a 3-hour eco-printing class, and they've got everything on their website for the UNC Charlotte Botanical Gardens. If you're interested in coming, I would love to see you out there. I am also going to be teaching at Green Mountain Spinnery's Fall Knitter Retreat, which I'm super excited about. It's Friday through Sunday. We're going to have 6 hours of class on Saturday and another 3 hours on Sunday, along with meals together and knitting time, and I am super excited and very honored that they asked me to teach this. So we will be doing a lot of eco-printing that weekend, including eco-printing on some of their sock blanks so that you can have some of their yarn to take home. So if you're interested in that, it is, I believe, the last weekend in September, and all the information is on their website as well as mine. I've got both classes and the workshop and retreat linked on my website.
Spring's coming, it starts to show. You left something so strong. Keep searching, I'm on my way.
So I just wanted to share with you all the things I've been up to this past month. That wasn't so much knitting related because there's been a lot going on. I'm getting all my gardens ready. I had a lot of work to do with bringing the soil, getting the soil a little more enriched. This area where we live, when we first built the house, had been bulldozed, and so all the topsoil had been taken off. So it's taken years to get it back to a nice healthy state. I've also been doing some eco-printing. I have a class coming up next week for Kaya's school. The students are coming in. They're going to learn about the chemistry related to eco-printing, about mordanting, and how all that works. And I'm also going to start my indigo vat today. So hopefully they can play with that a little bit. But here's some of the things I've been working on. They want to do, they make their lunches and breakfast together, and they want to do some eco-printed aprons. So this was a little test I did. And one thing you'll notice is how yellow it is. I dyed this, simmered it in a bath of eucalyptus, so that added some of the yellow to it. But another thing I've been curious about lately is, in my mordant bath, what the pH is. I know that alum, if you're using alum to mordant your fiber, can bring the pH down and make it somewhat acidic. What I didn't realize is how acidic it was making it. So I tested the water out of our tap, and that's about a 6, which is already a little acidic. Once I made a mordant bath, I tested it again, and it was a 2, which is extremely acidic. So even if I'm taking that fiber and washing it afterwards with tap water, it's still ending up slightly acidic, because even if I kind of neutralize it and bring it up to a 6, it's still acidic. So I'm going to start trying to give it a bath in water that I've added a little soda ash or washing soda to bring it up to a 7 or even an 8, and see if that will help balance and neutralize the fiber so it's closer to neutral instead of so acidic. And that, I think, will help me not get so much yellows in some of my prints. So I'll let you know how that goes. I have also been doing a lot of seeding. I have a whole thing here of indigo, and you can see all the little babies growing. Here I have some poppies and some calendula. They have not started yet. Back here I have some really fuzzy sunflowers. They're called teddy bear sunflowers and golden double sunflowers. These are things that Leaf wanted because they were so cute and we noticed them last year. They won't do dyeing, but in here we have what's called the Shibori Purple Morning Glory, butterfly pea flower, and black velvet nasturtium. I'm hoping to use all of those for printing and dyeing, and those are just getting started. Then I'll take you outside and show you what's in my little greenhouse right there. So in here I have some black Hopi sunflowers. There's some more over here. Some red Hopi amaranth, as well as what's called Dara Queen Anne's lace, which is supposed to be a queen. So Queen Anne's lace, if you know Queen Anne's lace, has a white, big white umbel flower. This one is supposed to have kind of a magenta reddish flower, and I'm just curious. I know that you can dye with Queen Anne's lace, and usually the leaves and the stalk will give you a green, yellowish or a green. And so I was just curious how the red flowers would do, and wondered if they would make an interesting print, so I thought I'd grow those and see how they did. I also had a bunch of calendula in here, but that has already gone into the ground over there. So we'll see how that does. Another thing I've been up to in here is getting a bunch of stuff mordanted. These 2 boxes are full of new sock blanks. I had the yarn created by EcoView Fiber Mill. It's a fabulous merino and tencel mix that's non-superwash but good for socks. And the friend of mine who makes sock blanks helped on their knitting machine make those into blanks for me. So I've got some of them in here mordanting, and I do the cold mordant process where I will dissolve the alum and cream of tartar in hot water and then add cold water or room temperature water until I have enough water in the pot, and then I add my blanks to it. And then in here I have some blanks, but I also have some yarn. The yarn is from Prado de Lana, from Casey and her sister. Casey is the adorable sheep that I've shown you pictures of before, who is just over a year old now, and I got to bottle feed her when she was a baby. I have been wanting to use her first fleece for a while, and I thought, why not take some of that yarn and see if I could create another fleece flight. Fleece flight, if some of you followed me for a while, is a shawl that I made out of 6 different skeins of yarn. They're triangular skeins, and you create it through short rows, and it ends up being a really long rectangle. And the cool thing about fleece flight is it's like a flight of beer, where you would get a bunch of little samples of beer and you can try them all. Fleece flight is a way to try out 6 different breeds of yarn, and I created it as a way to encourage people to try out rare breed yarns. But you could do it 6 different colors. You could do any variation of 6 different things to create the largest shawl. All of the proceeds for the sales of that pattern goes to the Livestock Conservancy, who is, and that group is doing a lot of work with trying to preserve heritage breeds and rare breeds in this area, not just sheep, but pigs, cows, livestock, basically. So what I decided to do, because that's my favorite shawl, if I go out and I'm chilly, that's the one I go to. It's a worsted weight, and because you're knitting, it's stockinette, on both sides, basically, so it's nice and squishy and warm, and that's the one I always grab when I'm going out. So I've been wanting to knit another one, and I thought it would be really cool to knit it out of things I have naturally dyed. So I got 5 skeins of Casey and her sister Corey, and they're a CVM Romeldale Romney mix. So the Romney breed gives it length and some nice crimp, and the Romeldale gives it lots of luster and squishiness, and it's a really beautiful blend. And then I also got 1 skein of Terrence, who is a CVM Romeldale. So I have 6 total skeins, and I'm going to dye them with things that I harvested locally. So 3 of the skeins I'm going to dye in 3 different ways. So I have 3 different shades. 3 of the skeins I'm going to dye with some wild cherry, which is the tree that you saw in the video where I was doing the mushroom plugging. I had a bunch more of the tree left, so I scraped off some of the bark, and I have steeped some of the bark, and I'm going to dye 3 of the skeins in that. The other 3 I'm going to dye in elderberry. And I'm going to change the mordants up. I might have no mordant, or I might have alum, or I might have iron. That'll give me 3 different shades for each color. So in the end, I'll have 6, hopefully 6 different colors in shades of pinks and purples. And I'll show you how that goes. What I'd really like to do with that is to have a knit along. So one, if you buy the pattern, all the money goes to the Livestock Conservancy. So that is awesome right there. I'm not getting any of it. It all goes out to support research and heritage breeds at the Livestock Conservancy. So I would like to do it like this. You can either get 6 skeins from whatever you want of a worsted weight yarn. If you want to experience 6 different heritage breeds, if you want to do 6 different farms, however you want to do it. And you can knit the fleece flight with us. Or you can choose to also dye it. If you would like to do a naturally dyed, dye your own, and dye it along with me, I'll encourage you to do that. Even if you just try, 1 or 2 different colors to add to some of it. So if you dye your own, you can use local sources, you could use local yarns, you could get white in 6 different rare breeds. There's all kinds of ways to experiment with it. You don't have to dye it. You could use natural colors, you could get 6 already dyed. But that's one step if you'd like to take that step in it. And then you knit the fleece flight. It's a way to explore local farms. It's a way to explore local colors around you. It's a way to explore rare and heritage breeds, and just to have fun and join in. So it's going to be a 6-month knit along. We'll start it on May 15th and we'll end it on November 15th. And that way you have lots of time to gather your yarns, get things dyed if you want to dye along, and spend time enjoying the knitting. And it'll be ready just in time for cold weather. So I talked with Amanda at Prado de Lana, and she will have some yarns available if you wanted to experience some of her yarns. She has some rare and heritage breeds, and I will put all the details up in my Ravelry group. And I think we'll do prizes. Maybe we'll do prizes for those who have naturally dyed it, as well as those who've just finished the product but didn't do the dyeing. I don't know. We've got time, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you join me. It's a super simple pattern, but a lot of fun to knit. It's really nice to sit down and knit it while you're watching a movie, Game of Thrones, whatever you guys are up to right now. So I'm excited for you to join me. Let me know if you're joining in, and come and visit the Ravelry group so you can be a part of it. So I'm starting this morning getting my indigo vat going. I've always used the 1, 2, 3 method for doing an indigo vat, which is 1 part indigo, 2 parts lime, and 3 parts sugar, or whatever your reducing agent is. So this time I'm actually doing a recipe out of this book, which is an absolutely fabulous book. It's called The Art and Science of Natural Dyes, Principles, Experiments, and Results by Joy Boutrup and Catherine Ellis. And I just discovered that Catherine Ellis lives in my area. I don't know how I didn't know this, but she is a natural dyer. She's a weaver. She wrote the book Woven Shibori, which is a technique she created with making shibori out of your woven materials. Really interesting. So I went to see a talk last week that Catherine was giving about natural dyeing right now, and it was just hearing her story and how she got to where she got, and the journey she's been on is very interesting. But I love this book. If you are all interested in the specifics of natural dyeing and specific recipes, why the chemicals work certain ways, this is it. It talks all about So let me read you some of the table of contents. It talks about why you use what fibers. It talks about specific dyes and the chemical groups that are in them. So like the anthraquinoids and the flavonoids and stuff like that, and how, if you know the chemicals or the chemical groups that are in the plants, like if you're wanting to use blueberries, well, blueberries might have this, that, and the other, then you know, oh, well, it's a beautiful blue or purple, but it's not going to last because that's this type of chemical and those chemicals fade. Just things like that. The research that they've done is amazing. It also talks about your mordants and how and why they work. And then the indigo immersion dyeing, printing. The thing that I like is at the end, there's a bunch of recipes. All the recipes of how they created what they create, and the specifics of why those work. And that's like, there are some amazing natural dye books out there, but very few of them have the science behind it. The experiments and the science of why it works the way it does. And I like that kind of thing. I really like to know how something works chemically, because then I can figure out how I can change it. If I want to do something differently, but I don't know how it works, then I'm just, fooling around trying to figure out how to do it differently. But if I know the chemical reaction behind it, I can figure out how to do something differently. So I am going to be doing the indigo vat today, and I'm going to be using henna as my reduction material. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is simmer up some henna and make a reduction fluid, basically a dye extraction from the henna, and I'll be using that in my vat. So let's get started with that.
Spring's coming, it starts to show. You left something so strong. Keep searching, I'm on my way. Do you still know? Do you still know?
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our bees. Our beekeepers here. So we have, 6 hives now on our property, and that is Carl, our good friend, who is a professional beekeeper. And he puts his bees out on our property. It used to be that Toby and I took care of them ourselves, but I wasn't a huge fan and had fairly strong reactions when I got stung. And then once Toby got stung on his carotid artery, which is the main artery that goes to your brain, and developed hives and a pretty bad reaction. So we stopped and asked Carl if he had any interest in keeping them here, because he lives not far from here and needed more space for his bees. So, there's Carl. We usually have a fairly good time with our bees, not losing more than half. And some of you know that the bees are having a really hard time around the world right now. And a lot of the beekeepers are losing their hives. And we're just not exactly sure why. Some people think it's the electromagnetic frequencies. Some people say it's viruses. Like, there's all kinds of things, but nobody's exactly sure why. And there's not a lot of money into research. But bees produce so much of our food. They pollinate so many foods that if we did not have our bees, we would not have enough food. So they're very important to our ecosystem for many reasons. Last year, for the first time, we lost all 6 of our hives. And we don't know why. When he got into them, there was no honey, there were no bees, and they were just gone. Everything was gone. So he is a part of a group that is setting up research hives where they are basically setting up strong queens from specific varieties. I believe ours are Russian queens, and trying to let them do their own thing. There you can see some of the bees on top. Do their own thing, as in not treating them, not giving them any special medicines or anything, so that they can build strong hives, and then collecting the ones that are the strongest and building more hives from that. So he is putting out 6 more hives for us to try to continue having bees out here and doing research. And he did say that, there's all kinds of speculation as to what is going on with the bees, but there's some genetic research that's been started, and a possibility that they have found a virus that could be one of the things that is causing a problem. He said it's like the bees have AIDS, and it's the 80s. Like, we know there's something killing the bees and all kinds of reasons for them dying, but we can't figure out what it is. And until we discovered HIV in humans, we couldn't, narrow down how to have a proper treatment. And he said something similar with the bees, that they have something that's killing them, and we don't know exactly what yet. But that there's not a lot of money or desire for research, and that's one of the biggest problems. So anyway, he is putting in some new hives, going through and checking out the ones that have been here. And that's our bees. So I've poured my indigo in here. It's a plastic ice cream container. And in it I have probably about 20 marbles and a little water. And the more I shake it, the more it helps to kind of get the indigo and the water to bond, so that it is absorbed more easily in the final vat. So the vat doesn't have a whole lot of a bloom to it, or like bubbles on the top. It did when I first made it, but it's been 24 hours and I've been doing a lot of gentle stirring and trying to mix everything in and get it to start oxidizing or reducing. So I'm just going to take a little piece of wet cotton and dip it in there for a little bit, just to see how it looks. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but putting it in there, I can tell that there is a yellow-green color to the indigo vat, which is exactly what you're looking for. If it's blue, then that means that the indigo has not reduced. You've got a lot of oxygen-bonded indigo in there, and so you won't be able to get it on your fabric. You don't want to do a whole lot of movement in the vat. If your hands are submerged and you're holding it, you can squeeze and move things around underneath, but you don't want to introduce a lot of oxygen into the water, because that's basically bonding indigo that you could otherwise be using. So you can see the green color that it has right now.
and it's already starting to turn a little blue. So we'll let it sit for about 30 minutes and then see how it does. I didn't leave it in there for very long. I'm just kind of wanting to make sure that it's ready to use. The pH is about 11, which is good. So I think it's ready to go. So this bucket right here, one thing I didn't tell you about is this is a turkey fryer that I got. It's more narrow and taller than most big cooking pots. And I like that because that gives me more upper space to work with the indigo and the stuff falls to the bottom. But with it came a bunch of things, like this little metal hanger thing, which makes it perfect for lowering into the indigo vat and just having it hang in there without touching the bottom. So right now I'm pulling aside the stuff that's on the top. It's not a big thing, it's just that it's kind of powdery bonded indigo, and so it'll sit on your fabric. See if I can get it curved a little so it doesn't touch the sides too much. I'll just lower it slowly so I'm not introducing a lot of water. And there we go. And I'm going to leave it in there for a while. But while I'm waiting, I wanted to talk to you just about one thing real quickly, and that is that I have opened up a Patreon account. If you are interested, Patreon is a place where you can find podcasters, artists, people who are creating content that you can take part in. Some people will have exclusive content only for those people who pay a certain tier. Some people release things only when they have a certain amount of sponsors. There's many different ways to do it. The way I've set it up is simply that there's one tier. It's $2 a month, which is $24 a year. If you want to support me that way, support the tutorials, the DIY stuff, the knitting and the eco printing and the natural dyeing and the stuff that I show on the podcast, and you are able to give that $2 a month, I welcome you. And that would be wonderful. If you are not interested or you are not able to give $2 a month, no big deal. Nothing will change with this podcast right now. It's going to be exactly the same. It just helps support me so that I can do the things that I enjoy and bring it to you in a good podcast. So I will link my Patreon account page down below so you guys can take a look at it. And I welcome you if you're able to support. Thanks. Just massaging it a little bit to see if I can get more indigo farther in. Let me show you. Here is the sample from earlier. It's pretty dark. Here, I think that'll work just like that. See how it does.
Wow, look at how dark this already looks from where it's been exposed. I'm going to take it out slowly, squeezing out the indigo as I go, trying not to let too many bubbles fall back in. Wow, look at that. All right. Let's see how this other one looks. Wow! They're turning dark blue the second they're exposed. Okay. You can see where it didn't really even penetrate in underneath these. Oh, I've got it all over my hands though. Oh, that is so cool. You can still see a bunch of green back here where it's not oxygenized yet. All right, let's see. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how these turned out. Here is the skirt. And you can see where it was rolled up the most here. It has less blue on it, and this was exposed more to the indigo. I love it. I love how that turned out. Let me show you this side too. Isn't that beautiful? And then this one is the pillowcase. So the side that was exposed most, and the underside, which was completely folded up, but it still has some of the design on it. So when I took these out of the pot, I dunked them in a bucket of water that had a little vinegar in it to try and neutralize the alkalinity of the indigo vat. And then I've let them dry, and I'll let them sit for at least 3 days to cure a little bit, and then I'll give them a final rinse and they'll be ready to go. Look at this. That's where one of those plastic things that I attached to it that had a hole in the middle was. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so that's it. I'm excited to put this on my pillow. That's going to be neat to sleep on. I think that's it for this podcast. I hope you guys are doing really well. I am going to put like 6 to 8 minutes of when the man who owns the Rio Doce mines where we went gem mining went over all the things that we found and what they are, and examples of what they look like when they've been polished or cut. I'm going to put that at the end if you're interested. I thought it was really cool to see all the different minerals and gems that we found. So that'll be right at the end. And otherwise, I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. And I hope you're doing really well and enjoying your spring. Love you guys. Bye.
All right, you got your amethyst. You got the light, which is Rose de France, and you have the dark.
That's a beautiful dark amethyst.
A little bit darker than mine.
No, both of them together. This is 2, this is 3.
As you go through, if you see something in particular that you think would be the best for cutting, let me know.
Oh yeah, this one will do.
Okay.
I'll pull them out. That's more the Rosa de France. Now this guy, that's the bright citrine. Just right there.
Very pretty.
Oh, look at this.
It looks better.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous.
Very bright.
Yeah.
And these are your canary citrine. It's right here. Both of those cut. And this guy is green amethyst
Really?
called Hyalite.
I've never heard of that. Cool.
A couple of mines, when they bring the amethyst out, if they lay it out in the sun, some of it will turn green. You can actually find some of this with little hints of purple on the stone.
Neat.
But it's natural. And if you get the dark green, that's been treated. But the lighter green's all natural. Smoky quartz, which is here. That piece of cut, stone out of. And these guys are rutilated quartz. They got titanium needles in it.
Neat.
Your crystal quartz, which is here. And your golden citrine. These are cut, which is right there.
Those are beautiful.
These guys are aquamarine. That would do a small stone. Here. And this one is topaz.
Oh, neat.
You got lots of garnets, and one of them, this one is a pretty one. I can just see a little bit of color right there. That facet. Your sunlight, which is here. And that's a piece of blue quartz. There. And this is called honey quartz. The more trash that's in it, the prettier it becomes.
Oh, wow. That is pretty.
It'll cut pretty stuff. Fluorite, which is mainly all green, but that's got a little blue in it. Very soft stone, only good for a pendant or earrings.
Okay. Yeah.
Petrified wood,
How come I got no petrified wood?
I have 2 pieces of these.
which is right there.
Very cool.
Depending on the color, depends on how they turn out. You got emerald,
Whoa.
Lots of it.
a little bit opaque.
Ready?
A piece like this, we save the matrix
Oh, I
and
see.
just do a checkerboard on it.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm gonna bury it and you have to try and find it.
And this is fire quartz.
That's pretty.
Right there.
Yep. Very pretty.
Are you ready?
You also got tiger jasper.
Oh, so they have.
And these guys
Well, now we're still
Or-
finding the bucket.
that one's a ruby,
Oh, wow.
Wait, ruby?
that one's a sapphire,
Wait, which one's a ruby?
A ruby, a sapphire.
that's a ruby,
Brian, I'm ready.
Hold on. Actually, if you were to
a
shine
sapphire.
if you would actually shine a light to it, you could actually see that it's a ruby.
not always.
These are always around quartz.
And that
Wow,
ruby,
cool.
Anyway, I mean,
which is right there. They're a star. Rubies and sapphires. Now they will fluoresce.
Cool.
Tiger eye. There.
Beautiful.
That's Amazonite
the family makes it
right there.
variety.
And this is labradorite.
Oh, wow.
Labradorite from Madagascar.
Oh, that's pretty.
Do you want an answer skill? I do.
Neat.
I can see a little blue flash in this one.
Mom? Can I get a gumbo?
And that's got the blue and gold.
Sweetie, we're talking right now. Wait, please.
Now this is crocodile jasper.
Oh, cool.
The bigger, the prettier.
Yeah, I've never seen one like that.
Nice.
Now this is a fossil.
How much are these stones?
Oh yeah, I can see like stripes on it.
Wait, that's a fossil?
What are you finding in the bucket?
Wait, that's a fossil?
Got a lot of them right here.
Mm-hmm.
But normally when you polish it up, sometimes they get really cool and they go like that.
Oh, neat. That is super
I don't
cool.
see a lot
Yeah.
in yours, just one area.
Mm-hmm.
See a little circle up through here.
Mm-hmm.
Puts these into surprise buckets, which is at 40 a piece.
Oh, can I show you two things that look really cool when you're done?
Okay, carnelian. Carnelian gets his name because of the different colors.
Oh.
That one's yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Yep, I've got it on video, so I'll remember
you're-
all of this.
you're taping it. That one's more of the lighter yellow.
Mm-hmm.
That one is yellow. Don't have any orange. Yellow. That one's almost clear. There's the orange.
Neat.
They look like these two.
Oh, those are pretty.
Black tourmalines
Mm-hmm.
is back over here in this corner.
Mm-hmm.
Your guava quartz,
Yes,
right there.
that's really cool.
And this is Brazilian turquoise, which is here.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And these guys are Mexican opals.
Oh, really?
You can see the opal there. There's
Oh,
opal
yeah, I see
across
it.
Here. There's the opal.
All of these?
Yep.
Wow.
That's the opal. The way we normally cut them is save the opal
Mm-hmm.
with the matrix. You can see the vein of opal
Mm-hmm.
going up through here and here.
This one is also, or is this the
No,
guava?
that's guava.
Okay.
You normally do it like that.
Oh, it's so pretty.
And depending on how it looks, where the opal is, you may get some flash of color.
Mm-hmm.
This one I can see some red and green flashing down through here.
Yeah.
So it may... Bandit jasper, that's always pretty.
Oh, that is pretty. Bandit jasper.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's your tree agate, not a lot of green. This is moonstone,
Okay. Yep.
which is here.
Yeah.
And your scenic jasper, that's a pretty one. A lot of people think it's wood when
Yeah.
it's done. That's your calcite, which is here. Rhodonite, pink and black.
Beautiful.
And this is epidote.
Epidote? Oh, I see it.
There.
Yep.